But let's bring in Dr. Elizabeth Clayborne. She's an adjunct assistant professor of emergency medicine at the University of Maryland School of Medicine. And you heard Anjali just there. Obviously, the addition of a possible fourth vaccine here in the United States would be a massive deal. So let's start off with that AstraZeneca news. What's the significance of that, especially within the context of the concerns that we've seen in Europe with that particular vaccine?
Well, I was pleasantly surprised and relieved, along with everyone else, when we got the data from the U.S. trial, which really, dismisses the concerns related to blood clots and other serious side effects associated with the AstraZeneca vaccine. And in fact, the data is very encouraging. Essentially, 79% effective against severe disease and hospitalization, which is the name of the game, right? We want a vaccine that protects you from getting seriously ill and or dying. And that is what this vaccine is looking to do. And because it is easily stored, it is something that is going to be an added weaponry in our fight against COVID-19. And I'm excited as a provider to have another opportunity to get our population, as well as those populations around the world, vaccinated and protected.
Dr. Clayborne, this is Emily McCormick. I just wanted to ask about the state of the reopening here in the United States when we have, of course, the variants, the B.1.1.3 variant, still really pronounced in some parts of the country. When we think about states like Texas that have lifted their mask mandate, while places like New Jersey and New York, and especially New York City, are actually trying to slow down their reopening process. What does this sort of patchwork of reopening and easing of stay-in-place restrictions mean overall for the recovery?
Well, I do think this is a very tenuous time for us in the United States. It's like we've been running a marathon and we're very close to the finish line, but we can't give up before we finish the race. And so I do think that all states need to continue to look at the data. And if there are turns in the projections of those getting sick and you're seeing the numbers increase, then it might be time to buckle down again. We are not out of the woods here. There is still a very real threat that a new variant could arise and become dominant. And it could be one that has less protection with the vaccines that we have. And that is the situation we do not want to put ourselves in. So I personally encourage everyone to please continue social distancing, continue wearing masks, continue doing what you think is safe for you and to protect those around you and those that might be more vulnerable to COVID-19, because we are not close to the finish line quite yet. We're so close. And I think if we just stay vigilant over the next several weeks to months, we will get there without having some serious setbacks.
Dr. Anjali here. I just wanted to get a sense of your thoughts on the comments on blood clots and other safety concerns. AstraZeneca has been sort of stumbling since the beginning with a variety of information, whether it's increased distance between the two doses or even a lower dose initially. Does that create any concern for someone like yourself to be in a clinical environment?
So, I think, again, I just look at the data. So the vaccine trial that took place in the United States was very large. They had over 30,000 participants. It was well represented. So there were members of the minority community, up to 8% were Black, 22% Hispanic, over 20% were 65, and a large majority of them had comorbidities. So this was a well-represented sample in which they did not show evidence of blood clots or other serious side effects. And so to me, that is very encouraging. In addition to showing that it is highly efficacious in preventing serious disease or hospitalization. So as a healthcare provider who has anecdotally seen an uptick in COVID-19 cases in the ER, it is something that I still am encouraging everyone to do. Please make sure you are looking at where you can sign up to get the vaccine and have access. And AstraZeneca, along with the other approved vaccines, if it does get FDA approval, is one that I would encourage everyone to take. Take whatever vaccine comes up for you first. That is how you're going to protect yourself, and that is how we're going to get this under control as a nation.
Dr. Clayborne, I want to ask regionally, what's been interesting is Texas lifted their mask mandate earlier in the month. I know it's only been a few weeks since then, but have you seen any sort of uptick in Texas as a result of that policy change? And what might that say just about the speed of some states wanting to reopen faster than others?
So, the Texas data is still coming in. You have to remember that when there's a policy change, the lag that you'll see in the actual uptick of cases may trail by 2 to 4 weeks because you're looking for an impact, say, from like spring break travel, right? We might see the impact of that well into May when those people who potentially are exposed because of either not wearing a mask or from traveling actually get sick and then bring that COVID back home to their own communities and it starts circulating there. So I think it's a little bit too early to tell what is going to happen with the mask mandate in Texas. But I know that everyone is looking, right? Because every state is trying to weigh the risk and benefits of what they're going to do with their reopening. And it's something that we carefully need to continuously look at and pay attention to the data. So I think we'll have to wait and see. It is concerning to me. I still stress that everyone should be wearing a mask and everyone should continue social distancing. That is the only way to ensure that you are going to be safe.
And Dr. Clayborne, before we let you go, I wanted to ask just about the pace of the vaccinations that are taking place in the U.S., because we're at a daily rate of about 2.5 million. We, of course, have so many people who are hoping for some return to normalcy by the summer. Do you see that happening given where we are at right now?
I certainly think that we can get there based on our current vaccination pace, but that is assuming that we don't have spikes from spring break travel or from opening up too quickly. Those are the things that are going to set us back, and then that finish line is going to be pushed further out into the summer, and we may not get back to normalcy in the summer if we do not stay vigilant in this time frame right now. I'll also take this opportunity to say that you still need to always be planning ahead. As an emergency physician, the other thing, in addition to getting a vaccine when it becomes available to you, that you should be thinking about now is filling out an advance directive. I can't tell you how often people come into the ER, they never expect to have a serious illness. And when they show up there and maybe cannot speak for themselves because they're in respiratory distress, I need to have access to your medications, your past medical history, and who to talk to on your behalf if you can't speak for yourself. So I always encourage everyone to fill out an advance directive. You can go to a platform like cdc.gov that has state-specific forms, or an online organization like My Directives. I did a TEDx talk about this because I think it is so, so important. And it's something that I always like to highlight when we're coming up against these times where we're looking forward to returning to normalcy, but you don't want to be that person that gets sick from COVID at the very end of a pandemic.
Yeah, really, really important reminder there. But again, Dr. Elizabeth Clayborne, Adjunct Assistant Professor of Emergency Medicine at the University of Maryland School of Medicine. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.